It's tough when you're trying to match up against a Dublin team. You'll never get a situation where you'll win 10 individual battles. But what Mayo can do is what other counties either haven't been able to do or they just haven't tried to do. And that's ask Dublin some questions. And Mayo do that better than anybody. You see it with every James Horan team, and you definitely see it this year. Every single game, Mayo are going out playing front foot football. They've got a high press. They're doing it with complete aggression. And they're doing it with what we already know is one of the most conditioned teams outside of Dublin. They're not just really manic and really fast and really strong. They're also really smart. So if you look at the Tipperary match and look at the goal that Mayo got from the Tipperary kickout, you'll see just how clever Mayo are as well. When you have a man the size of Aidan O'Shea and a man who is as active and as energetic as Aidan O'Shea in front of the goalkeeper, that scares the keeper. You know, he doesn't want to look down straight at Aidan O'Shea, who's taking up a lot of space, and he's just putting him off. So what inevitably happens is the keeper goes out wide. From a Tipperary point of view, that's good. Like, they still got the ball, they're out on the wing, but it's now the way that Mayo react. Because of their setup anyway, it's not easy for Tipperary to get out. So the natural thing is to come back inside where there's usually space. But the way Aidan O'Shea moves in on that closes the rest of the space inside, and you're encouraging the guy on the ball to come back out where there's generally more bodies. Normally a forward in this situation will close straight down and it'll just give the defender the inside channel to come into or give him the keeper to pass it back to. Aidan O'Shea closes off that avenue, and now he's putting the choice back into the man on the ball. So what he does is that he runs back into the corner, and now Tipperary from their own kick-out are in a position that they really should not be in, and one that they really don't want to be in. Now they're just stuck in the corner, and suddenly your three full forwards, who were once covering the entire width of the pitch, are now covering an area half the size. They're covering half the width of the pitch because of how smart they were and because of the way they've trapped Tipperary. What happens then is the ball tries to go back to the goalkeeper, and maybe if this is a better pass, then that's fine and they still get out anyway. But Mayo have asked them a question, and not every single time are a team able to come up with the answers. And Cillian O'Connor intercepts, and it's a goal. It's just one example, and a lot of people might call that an unforced error on Tipperary's part. That's a forced error. Mayo have made that happen. It might not always come off, but if you even look at the semi-final last year between Dublin and Mayo, everyone talked about Mayo's kickouts being annihilated. Rob Henley actually had a good game that day, and he did everything you could have asked of him when Dublin had their full press on. But it was a 12-minute period that undone Mayo. Dublin won by 10 points. Outside of that 12-minute period, Dublin won by 1 point. So you don't always get success out of this, but you can get enough success to win games. In that case, it was to win a game by a lot. And in the case against Tipperary, Mayo continued to put them into positions that pressured them and made them panic, and Mayo reaped the benefits of it. That's crucial coming up against Dublin. Over the last 6 years, we know that playing counter-attack football against Dublin doesn't work. Bringing men back into a blanket defence and then trying to overrun them and catch them out is not going to happen. So Mayo going man on man and pushing up and getting in teams' faces the way they do is the way to maybe not beat Dublin, but it's a way to take them on. And they have players that can match up with them as well. You might think that bringing Paddy Durcan back on Conn O'Callaghan is curbing his attacking instincts, but it's Conn O'Callaghan. He needs minding. He ripped Mayo apart last year. Plus, Paddy Durcan has shown an ability to pick up some of the best players in Ireland and still be a driving force for Mayo going in the other direction. And it means that Lee Keegan can pick up Kieran Kilkenny, the same as the 2017 final. And in midfield, they might just go 2-on-2, a proper old-school battle. James Horan said during the week, you see a lot of teams that don't take risks and play it safe. I don't know if they have a chance of winning with that mindset. And that's important, a chance of winning. So I think Mayo will come out against Dublin on Saturday and put Matthew Ruane and Conor Loftus in midfield and say, go at it. Because here's the thing about Brian Fenton. We've been talking for 6 years about how to stop Brian Fenton. Who do you put on him? Do you double team him? What does your team do when Brian Fenton has the ball? Brian Fenton solves all those problems. There's a reason why we're talking about him being one of the greatest players ever already. He's a big game player and he's going to have a big game. That's what he does. All you can ask your midfielder to do is go out and try to get some change out of him. Brian Fenton doesn't normally give change to anybody, so if Matthew Ruane can have some sort of influence going in the other direction, like he has been doing all season, then that's good. If Ruan and Diarmuid O'Connor and Aidan O'Shea, whoever's helping out, can hang on to Fenton for as long as they can and try to limit him, that's all you can ask him to do. Closing down Brian Fenton is not going to be the winning and losing of this game because you're not going to stop him. But you might be able to get enough out of him that will add up at the other end at the end of the game. And there's a couple of good things for Mayo coming into this game. They know that Dublin are going to want to bring out their wing forwards the way they do. Bugler and Niall Scully will go forwards and around the middle. It doesn't necessarily leave free men all game because Dublin will engage them at some stage. They'll have 14 men forward at some stage. But it does give you a few options with somebody like Owen McLaughlin, who can now get busy and firefight around defence, or he can do what he's been doing so well and just drive at teams and cause damage. Most importantly, it gives him Stephen Coen to tuck inside and just sit in that number 6 position. So now no matter what's happening, no matter what Con O'Callaghan or Kieran Kilkenny are doing, no matter what sort of basketball-style movement that Dublin are trying to create space with, you have a big, strong, reliable number 6 in Stephen Coen just sitting in that central channel the entire game. But the key for Mayo is to engage with Dublin as much as they can. Just like Owen McLaughlin and Stephen Coen might be able to do what they want to do if Dublin drop back a bit deep. Johnny Cooper will just love that all too much, and he can go and sit in front of Aidan O'Shea, or he can go in behind Aidan O'Shea for a high ball, or he can sit in front of Cillian O'Connor if he's causing too much damage. You need to confront someone like Johnny Cooper, and every single Dublin defender needs to be occupied. That's easier said than done, but it will be a big thing for Mayo if they can bring that to the table. Because when they're confronting every Dublin back, what they're doing is giving them some one-on-one problems now. Does Davy Byrne want to be marking Aidan O'Shea inside? And what happens when Aidan O'Shea comes out, like he surely will? Does Davy Byrne follow him? Or does he go back inside and sit there on his own? Is Aidan O'Shea now free? Or does James McCarthy now suddenly start having to come into action and pick up Aidan O'Shea? Again, you're just asking Dublin questions. They might have answers for all these questions, but make them answer them. So if Oshie Mullen decides to go down the pitch, he knows Paddy Small is going to go with him the whole way. And if Paddy Durcan goes down the pitch, he knows Con O'Callaghan will track him the whole way. Now, Dublin might think that's a good thing, that every player is being accountable for their own man. But what Mayo know is that they now have opportunities to be one-on-one with some flair-based players who don't want to be defending between a lethal attacking wing-back and the posts. If Oshie Mullen is driving forward as dangerously as we know he can, and Paddy Small is the player between them, Oshie Mullen needs to get at him, and he can get at him. Over the course of the 4 championship matches, Dublin have conceded 39 points. Only 8 of those have come from free kicks. Dublin are not that clean at tacklers. But what's happening there is a mindset. Is teams are afraid to engage. When they see a blue jersey, they're conditioned to go backwards. They're conditioned to get out of trouble because Dublin can bottle you up. And they are obviously stronger than teams, so they don't want to go into contact with it. But they're not infallible either. And you look at Kieran Brady's performance against Cavan. He was just taking the game to Dublin and he was putting them under pressure. And when you do that, you've seen that they were actually human. And all throughout this championship, there have been examples of players being able to take on these blue jerseys. Against Westmeath, cornerback takes on Paddy Small, wins the free. Against Meath, Donald Keoghan, wingback, takes on Paddy Small, wins the free. Against Cavan, everybody's picked up here. Again, Desi Farrell will look at that scenario and think, that's exactly what I want. Kieran Brady just takes the man on, and the man who's following him is Con O'Callaghan, who falls to the ground, and Kieran Brady goes through and scores. If Oshie Mullen was lining up Paddy Small one-on-one in a training drill, he would fancy his chances every single time. He would just go at him and go by him. If Paddy Durcan was lining up anybody one-on-one in a training drill, he would go by them. These are some of the most potent runners the sport has ever seen. And you're asking some of the best forwards in Ireland to try and stop them, who are dogged and are physical and can do a great job, but not every time. Running at Dublin isn't a macro idea that will suddenly just beat them. But sometimes there's going to be one-on-one scenarios, even with all those players back. And if you can beat one man, then the whole thing opens up. Either you're through yourself, or you can pop it to somebody now who becomes free. And sometimes that one man isn't the best defender in Ireland. But what Mayo need to do most importantly is just bring that attitude that whilst we have now 6 seasons of evidence to suggest that Dublin can't be beaten in championship football, we have loads of evidence to suggest that Dublin players can be taken on and that they can tire and that they can make errors.